to another Flying Gadget Report. I hope you had a wonderful week and you're ready to talk gadgets. Today we are going to talk about something that it's very interesting and that I actually read on KLM's website. This was published on a KLM press release. And I think it is quite an interesting thing. And in my view, it should be considered, and maybe things would be should change for the better. And I think what this article says, definitely, if we look at what it says, it's really important. And I'm gonna start talking about it because you must be saying, okay, start saying it. Here it is. Pilots, KLM pilots join other European pilots, and they believe that there should be one single European sky. So that means one single route over Europe, and that would save time, fuel, and money. So let's talk about this. Today's gadget report will be about this. So come with me. Let's talk gadgets. And as I said, I'm reading my notes because I'm looking at the screen. KLM pilots. This was published on a press release published by KLM. And according to this press release, pilots over Europe believe that it would be very beneficial for aviation, special European aviation, if there was created a single European sky. And let me explain what it means from what I read on this article. At the moment, pilots need to go to certain routes, just like we have in land. We have certain motorways and other roads, and we have to follow the road. If the road goes in a loop or in a circle, we have to go through that route. The same happens in the sky. And what pilots propose is that a more direct routes start being used, and that will obviously cut emissions, because if the airplane is flying a more direct route, it might obviously cut the time the plane is flying, so less fuel used, so less emissions, less fuel, as I said, and of course less time for the passengers and for everyone involved. So I think if you look at this article, I think everything is beneficial indeed. One of the things that they say, it's like, as you know, with the European Union, borders on the ground have gone, but not in the air. They have to go into a fragmented airspace. That's how they describe it in the article, in order to go to several countries. So they will have to go, and they actually show the example of a flight from Amsterdam to Geneva, where you see a red, a red path. That is the actual path, the fragmented airspace, where the aircraft has to go in more of a round route, almost like a semicircle. And they also show in blue an optimized route, where it would be a more direct route from Amsterdam to Geneva. It says that the pilots currently have to fly thousands of extra kilometers through fragmented airspace in Europe. So they have to go through certain countries. They have to as I said, go through certain routes in order to do those flights. And what this article says, and what these pilots have proposed, is that a more direct approach to this is taken, and that will help a lot. According to what they say, more direct routes could cut emissions from 6 to 10%. So this is quite significant, as you can see, because of course it might look a little, but if you cut 6 to 10% on all flights from Europe, then in the end it all adds up, and it would be a good reduction. I would say it would be a great reduction in emissions. One of the things that they say, a route, for example, and that's the example they showed, and if you look at the article, I'll leave the link below so you can actually read the article itself. It's very good. And they say that a route between Amsterdam and Geneva is 120 kilometers longer than it needs to be. And they exemplify with the diagram that they do, the current route that they put in red, and the blue one that is the one that they proposed, and it would be a more direct route. And the visual effect of it, it's staggering. You just look at it and you see straight away, yeah, it doesn't make sense, because it just goes around. And why doesn't it go on a more direct route? So that's what it says. The Dutch airline published this on one of the press releases, and they believe that this is important. The airline claims it would help them achieve their emissions target, for example, and would be more beneficial and help achieve a more sustainable aviation. And we can see why. As I said, 6 to 10% is something that is quite significant, I would say. More direct flights will cut emissions, as these pilots have said, and obviously will cut all these unnecessary routes, all these round routes, and these more longer routes that will obviously will cost more money, because obviously they need fuel to sustain the plane on air. We all know that. That's not anything special. And if you cut on that, you're already making money. So in the end, I think if we look at this, we can look at this on an environmental approach, and obviously we can see the benefits straight away. If we have planes in the air less time, they consume less fuel, and obviously less emissions, it will be a positive for the planet. We can see that straight away. But even on an economic perspective, if the flights, or if the planes are flying on a more direct route, that will mean that those planes will use less fuel, the same as for the environment. So if they use less fuel, the airlines will have to spend less money to feed those planes, and that it's obviously beneficial economically. Also, in terms of pilots, we all know that pilots have a certain amount of hours that they can fly, and then they have to go into their break. This will also help with that, and it will also be an economic plus as well, because the pilots could possibly do their flights and accommodate longer flights, because on a more direct route, those flights, the hours in those flights could possibly be cut off. So it's all, if you look at it on a holistic perspective, it's a very positive approach, and I hope really it's taken on board, and people start looking at this, not just for Europe. I believe it could be applied for other parts of the world, perhaps. I hope it can actually be applied to other parts of the world, because it will be, in my view, it will be beneficial on all sorts of aspects, not only economically but environmentally, and with now, when you have aircraft that are becoming more and more fuel efficient, so this means they consume less fuel, and they can fly longer, they have a wider range. So this is also, to add to that, if you have an aircraft and have a wider range, and if you have an aircraft that is fuel efficient, so therefore it's already reducing the amount of fuel that it needs to do a certain flight. If you add to that the fact that that flight, instead of, for example, taking 12 hours or more, it's going to take only 10 or 8, that will be an even bigger reduction. So to add to the reduction in fuel, to the reduction of emissions that these aircraft may already be doing due to the advances in technology and the fact that they are now more fuel efficient, that they are now more environmentally friendly, etc., etc., in the use of SAF, etc., etc., this is going to add up to that reduction and to that great result that it's already achieved by the new aircraft that have been now developed. And I think this is all a good thing for aviation, and this is all a good way of trying not only to cut emissions, which is obviously something aviation is trying to do really, really hard, and the sector is really working hard on this, but also it's also beneficial for passengers. Just imagine, and living in Australia, I know too well how frustrating it is. For example, my relatives, if they want to come and visit me, they will have to travel more than 24 hours just to come to Sydney. So if with this development, with these studies and the new technologies, instead of 24 hours, they can do it, I don't know, in 16 or 17 hours. Well, it might be a small reduction, you would say, but in the end, it's a reduction in people's mind. It's getting there faster. It's achieving their goal faster. And I think it's good on every level. It not only the environment, but obviously for the environment, but it's also economically, even for the airline. If you can advertise that you can fly from A to B in three hours less, your flights will take 3 hours less from A to B because you having a more direct route. Obviously, if this was to be implemented, it won't be just certain airlines that would adopt this. I would believe that this would be a regulation through European aviation, and all routes through these countries would have to go through this new system. I would believe that would be the case. So I don't think it's some advertising kind of thing or a marketing kind of thing, because if this is to be implemented, I would think that all airlines in Europe and all airlines that fly European airspace would have to go through this new system, these new direct routes, just as they have to do through the current ones at the moment. So at the moment, if you fly through Europe, you have to go through these established routes that basically are exactly like our roads. We have to go and follow those particular roads. We can't just go and do a direct path just like that. We have to follow roads. And in the air, it's exactly the same. What these pilots are saying is that it is possible to reduce these routes and make them shorter, more direct, and with that have a beneficial impact on all sorts of things, economically, environmentally, even in terms of passengers as well. And this obviously is something that needs to be taken in consideration, I believe, and maybe this will be the future of aviation. With all things that this sector has been doing for the environment, maybe this is another thing to add. I'm honestly, when I read the article, I decided to do this video about it because I thought it was a very, very interesting thing, and it was a very important thing that I believe should be considered and should be looked at, because I think it would be beneficial for everyone. I hope if this it is or ends up being implemented in European airspace, I hope other parts of the world look at it and see the viability of this and see the benefits that something like this could actually bring to the table, and obviously maybe do something good for aviation. In this particular example, and taking the example that they use in the article, they have, as they said, the current route will take them 120 kilometers more, 1,400 kilos of CO2 in emissions, and 10 minutes more. So in terms of time, for a flight from Amsterdam to Geneva, which we know it's not a very long flight, it would be a 10-minute reduction. But obviously, when you talk about longer flights, if it's a more direct route, it could possibly be taking more than just these 10 minutes. But even if it's 10 minutes, again, giving the example of Australia, if you take 10 minutes on your one of the legs of your flight, and taking the example of Lisbon, Sydney, I always had to go 3 legs of my flight because I would have to fly Lisbon to another European hub. I usually chose London Heathrow because I was flying with British Airways, as I said many times. And then I would have to wait there for the last leg of my flight, which was technically a direct flight from London to Sydney, but obviously it was not direct. It had a stopover in one of the Asian hubs, usually either Bangkok or Singapore, and then the last leg was Sydney. So if we could cut, let's say, 10 minutes from Lisbon to London, that would be already good. And then if you could cut another, maybe on a long haul flight, who knows, you could cut more. If you can cut, let's say, an hour, and on the last leg from the hub in Asia to Sydney, another hour or half an hour, in the end, it would be a reduction of more than 1 hour. So it's always good. And the emissions, obviously, I cannot quantify because I'm not an expert on that, and obviously I don't have the values of all the emissions that are produced in a flight from Lisbon to Sydney. The data that I'm showing you, it's the one provided by KLM in this press release, and as I said again, I will leave the link below so you can actually read it. It's very interesting, and the study that they made and the proposal, it's quite interesting, and I think it's seriously something to be considered. So maybe they will listen. And that's all for today. I hope you liked this gadget report. I hope you are really as excited about this as I am. I'm actually very excited. I think it's a very good thing. And I hope it really, someone just notices it and some changes are made, because I think this would be a positive step for aviation. So I think it's actually nice, and it's good that there's already an airline on board, which in this particular case is KLM. I hope more airlines will see this and more airlines will come on board, because usually when there's more than one group, when it's more than one company putting pressure for this type of change, it's more likely that someone will actually look into it and changes will be made. So I hope other European airlines look at this from KLM and actually see the benefits of something like this, and actually put pressure into European authorities to implement something like this. I think it's important. I think it's very, very important. And and I hope you liked it. Again, I'm waiting for your comments. If you have read anything, if you live in Europe and you have read anything about this, maybe your national airline has published something like this as well, and they are also involved in this project, please leave a comment below, share with us. If you work in aviation, if you work with this sort of project, with European authorities, and you would like to share a light on what's going on in about this, and why this is a good idea or why this may not be a good idea, because that maybe it's not a good idea, maybe it sounds good on paper, maybe it looks good on paper, and maybe in reality it might not be possible. We never know. So if you know, just leave us a comment, and I'm always happy to answer your queries. As I said, and I said it before, next month I will be doing a special video in response to the video that I made about MH17 and the conviction of 3 men accused of shutting down the plane. I had a few responses to that video, and I will be analyzing it. But again, and I recall what I said in my last report, I won't be delving into conspiracy theories or political commentary. I don't think that's the purpose of this channel. I don't think that's the purpose of that video. It was just an informative video telling my viewers what has been done. That was a court, and that 3 people have been officially charged and convicted of that crime. So I'll be talking about the comments that I received, and I will be running my own commentary about the comments, but without delving into politics, because I think it's not my place here to do that, and not going into conspiracy theories. As you know, I never do. So before I go, put a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you get a notification of a new gadget report every week. And I would like to thank you all for watching. See you next week. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye.